Oh, so is he? Right, well, good evening, everyone. I'm Norma Martinez-Rubin, and I am serving as Vice Chair of the Board of the Western Contra Costa Transit Authority, fondly known as Westcat. And this evening, we are meeting. It is September 11th, and may we have a roll call, please?
Here.
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 Okay, so we do not have a quorum, and so therefore we are going to move around on the agenda. We are going to go directly to a presentation scheduled for today's meeting. So if we may have that presentation on the dais, our presenter has distributed a copy of the slides, and she will be going over those with us, and then we can entertain questions. Yes? And
Yeah, so I'll just,
Andrew?
I'll just introduce, Ronnie's been here a couple of times now and gave presentations, so this is just the latest presentation for the comprehensive operations analysis. Ronnie?
Thank you very much, both. Take it away.
This on? Yeah. So we are at a very important point in Westcat's evolution. Tonight, I get to present a set of recommended opportunities to you, and you get to hopefully improve Westcat's fixed routes. So to recap, I can't, yeah. There we go. Okay. Okay. Next. Okay, so the purpose of Westcat Evolution is to take a comprehensive look at the entire system with a fresh perspective, and to see what's working well and where there's room for improvement. Well, we did that. And what we found is that overall, the system is working quite well. Most of your passengers are pleased with your fixed route services and use them often and consistently. There were very few requests for service to new areas and not a whole lot of interest in new service types. What people told us more than anything is that they simply want more of the service that already works for them. And that's what brings us to today's discussion: how we can build on that strength by identifying opportunities to expand and improve service. At our first meeting, you all selected these goals to help guide this project and Westcat service in general, and they are explained in your handout. So over the last few months, we've moved through 3 phases. First, we conducted a lot of data analysis to see how the system is functioning currently and where and when people travel, and to get a better understanding of the communities that make up Westcat's service area. Then we went out into those communities, and as you may recall from our last very long presentation, we got a lot of helpful input from passengers, from stakeholders, and from non-riders about what matters most to them. Well, then we took everything we learned and coalesced it into a clear set of draft opportunities for your review today. But first, I'm going to recap a few important things from the first 2 phases. Well, regional commuting is the strongest travel pattern in your service area. The J routes and links together account for about 70% of boardings on the system. And that's because there is a huge amount of commute flow in and out of the service area. 93% of your residents who are employed work outside of it. and about 75% of those have commutes longer than 10 miles. In the reverse, 82% of people who work in the service area live outside of it. Local routes are important for not only residents of the service area, but also for workers traveling into the area for essential community-based jobs like retail, healthcare, and services. And last, unlike the traditional peak commute, much of the work travel is spread throughout the day, much bigger windows, even compared to other areas of the Bay Area. So what we learned from public engagement that's most important to today is through the onboard survey of passengers, we got 640 riders that told us what matters most, and their top requests were clear across all of the engagement activities: more frequent buses, better reliability, and expanded weekend and evening service. Riders' work schedules show why this is so important. 41% said that they work on weekends. Connections are also vital. More than half of the riders we surveyed said that their usual trip includes a transfer to BART. We also heard from several non-riders that the reason they don't use Westcat is because of infrequent service and weak connections. So taken together, the data analysis and community input gave us a really strong foundation to work from. The next step was to think about it all from a transit planning perspective, which levers we can adjust to respond to what we learned. So first, let me say, this is not all of the things that transit riders want, and these are definitely not all of the transit service factors, but these are the ones that are relevant to our discussion today. So transit riders, myself included, want service that goes where I want to go. This is about connectivity and proximity. So we look at both the proximity of service to people's homes, jobs, and destinations, which Westcat does a great job of, and also how well the routes connect to each other and neighboring transit systems. We also want the service to go when we want it to go, and that's affected by span, which is the hours of the day when service runs, but also the days of the week. We want buses to run often enough so that we don't have to plan our whole trip around the schedule. Well, that's where frequency comes in. In planning terms, the time in between buses at a stop is the headway. We also want service that gets us to our destinations reasonably fast, compared to our other options, of which there are many. Speed and delay are affected by the travel speed of the bus, the distance between bus stops, the directness of the route, schedule adherence, and other factors outside of our control like traffic. And the last one is a big one. As riders, we need the service to be reliable. Reliability is affected by all of these 4 service aspects and about 20 others. Put simply, this slide shows us how riders' wants and needs connect directly to the levers that we use as planners. These levers shape the opportunities we will be discussing. But first, an important note. This is not all about increasing ridership. It's about balance through these 4 important aspects, which I'll go over in a second. It's also about balance in terms of the budget. Our aim is to present a clear set of opportunities that does not increase the current operating budget. So before we dive into the specific service opportunities, I want to be clear about what's not in the scope for today. Some topics are very important, but are outside of this operations study. Namely, infrastructure issues and improvements are not part of this project, and many fall outside of Westcat's control. And this includes things like traffic, bus stop amenities, transit center locations, and parking. As for marketing communication opportunities, we're creating a whole plan as part of this project, which will be presented to you at the next board meeting. Opportunities outside of regular fixed route service, like dial-a-ride, microtransit, and school service will be also a topic of our next meeting. So today's focus is only on Westcat's fixed routes and how they operate. to decide which of the several opportunities we've developed to bring forward today, we looked at each one through 4 different lenses. First, effectiveness, meaning the potential for the opportunity to improve transit service for both current and potential passengers. Second, did it respond to what we heard from the public? Third, is it operationally feasible, meaning something we could realistically run with the resources that we have? And finally, did it fit within the cost and budget neutrality requirement? These lenses helped us sort through many potential changes and narrow them down to the set we're presenting today. So with that framework in mind, let's walk through the proposed opportunities. They are grouped into 3 categories. The first one is regional express service. So I'm going to talk about this one while you look at the map, but it is combining the JL and JR route alignments into one streamlined route. So currently there are 2. One serves Hilltop Mall and one serves Richmond Parkway Transit Center. Both of those stops are among the busiest in the system and key transfer points to other Westcat routes and AC Transit. And so we're proposing to merge these 2 routes into one alignment, which serves both stops, and then enter and exit I-80 at the Hilltop Drive entrance and exit. Why? Well, this would simplify the schedule and the routing and make it easier to understand for current as well as future passengers. And we have so that any bus you get on, if it's a J, it's going to serve either one of these 2 important stops. And it also avoids school congestion on Lakeside Drive, which is the left. And then also it's pretty much net cost 0. It's very close. Okay. Oh, feel free to jump in if you get what I'm talking about. Okay, next, increase the frequency of J and JPX to better align with BART. So currently, the J routes, all of them combined, carry almost half of system ridership. There's previous plans. The West County High Capacity Transit Study found that there's, in 2017, capacity to have a frequent route network include the same corridor that the J is on. And then the West Contra Costa County Express Bus Implementation Plan went even farther and named it as a route and talked about what needs to happen next to bring the level of service up to more frequent. So there's support in regional planning. And the service area has, like I talked about, a very dispersed commute time. So what this would do is increase the J and the JPX to 20-minute headways during a 10-hour period that includes a 5-hour chunk in the morning, 5-hour chunk in the afternoon, so it gets that wider commute times. The headways at BART, as well as the Hercules Transit Center and Richmond Parkway Transit Center, would be 10 minutes. So someone getting off of BART would only have to wait a maximum of 10 minutes before either a J or JPX can. And that's really important. It always has been for meeting BART. And so, why? Well, buses coming more often is one of the main determinants, not only that your passenger said, but also of what any riders say about freedom, the freedom to ride transit. What makes a system attractive is frequent service. Like I said, it is also one of your passengers' favorite things. It would capture about 70% from the American Community Survey data. They'd say that about 70% of people's commutes would be in that 10-hour window. It would improve the reliability and ease of transfers to and from not just BART, but also the other services at the 2 other aligned at Richmond Parkway and Hercules Transit Center. And, it basically aligns service with demand during those high-use windows. That's it. The last one for Regional Express is to reallocate all JX service to increase the frequency on J and JPX. So this is how we pay for it. So currently, the JX serves the same major stops, Hercules Transit Center, BART, and it also goes to the waterfront. There's very, very low activity. Not none, but there is a very low activity at the waterfront stop. It's the only other stop, and it's just, yeah. It's in the other two has far more boardings and lightings. It has a pretty low productivity per hour, so the passengers per hour that it operates is much lower than the other express routes, or JPX and J. And the proportion of the route that is deadhead is actually a lot higher and the highest of all of the other routes. So it's not super productive or efficient. It was reintroduced in 2023, but there was not a net increase in ridership. Pretty much what it did is just people changed from JPX to JX, or people just take whichever bus arrives. So getting rid of JX would free up hours and miles to go to frequency for J and JPX. It would create a lot of cost savings. As I said, it's not as productive, the JX, so it would be moving money from a less efficient use of resources to a higher one. The travel time on JPX is comparable to what it was on the JX. It's not the same, but it's like only a couple minutes off, 25 versus 27 minutes. And there's also a development planned at the waterfront stop that will block our access to the stop anyways. Yeah. Okay, so now on to locals. How about let's add Sunday service to routes 11 and 19. Right now, Route 11 operates weekdays and Saturdays, and it's a really important link for Rodeo and Crockett communities to reach HTC, so transfers and also some shopping destinations. Route 19 is only on Saturdays, and it also has the highest ridership at key shopping destinations and transfer locations. So this would add Sunday service to both routes, and that would also make it so that Sunday service is the same as Saturday service, which is not right now. Currently only the J runs on Sundays. And it would be using, oh, I took that off, never mind. So why? Well, we found from the onboard survey and at the open houses that weekend service was repeatedly requested. There's 41% of your riders work weekends. Route 19 has when we broke the answers down for the onboard survey, Route 19 riders had the highest preference for expanded coverage, so geographic coverage, and they were the only route riders that preferred local service over regional. This adding Sunday service responds to additional weekend routes, which was one of the top rated improvements also. So we asked riders to look at a bunch of improvements and tell us how important they would be. Additional routes running on weekends was up there. And then last, I want to point out there's this really interesting trend in the post-COVID recovery. A lot of transit agencies throughout the country, but also in the Bay Area, have seen a disproportionately high rate of return to transit on weekends than weekday service. I've seen this all over, and I looked it up to make sure I knew what I was talking about, and it's true. Muni, also smaller agencies that I've worked with. So I think that this would give us an opportunity to see if that's also true for this area. Okay, so the next one is optimize Route 15. Here's the map for it. So there's 2 loops currently on Route 15 that see very, very little boarding and alighting activity, like very little, especially because there's 10 routes on the viewpoint loop 10 stops up there, and combined even they have about 5 people's worth of activity per day, maybe. And the headways on Route 15 are 55 minutes. So what this would do is remove that viewpoint coral loop that sees very little activity, and also remove this business park loop, which also sees very, very few boardings and alightings, which would streamline it, make it more direct. And then it would go up clockwise, and then instead of going back the way it came, which is longer, it would just travel along Willow back to the Hercules Transit Center. And it would operate on 60-minute headways. So this saves this whole route about 10 minutes per trip, which is huge. So it increases the speed of people making a trip. And so that improves reliability because it was made more direct for both of these. It reduces unproductive service, puts it somewhere else that might be more needed. There's a stop where the Viewpoint Loop meets Willow Ave, and that's the highest, and it's on the Viewpoint Loop, so it would go away, but it's very close to the main road for Willow Ave, and that's the stop that actually has the highest amount of activity on that whole loop. So those people could just walk a very short distance to a different stop. The same is true for the Business Park Loop, and the same is true for a couple other loops I'm gonna suggest that you drop. So, and you're seeing, retained access for a lot of, for a big proportion of those riders. It also, there's a big apartment complex that would have a much faster access to Hercules Transit Center if it goes back around the Willow Ave. Otherwise, they would have to go all the way around it. That would be less attractive. And then, it'd be a minimal increase in headways of only 5 minutes, putting it at hourly. Okay. Streamline Route 16. So this map has 2 routes on it. You'll see why. But let's look at 16, which is the green one. It's a coverage route through and through, meaning it's meant to cover a wide geographic area, big proportion of the service area, and it does that. It's the only Westcat route that is not connected to the Hercules Transit Center. And there are a couple loops and deviations that, again, are not very productive, like not at all. Like 1 or 2 people maybe per day on average. And so we're proposing to eliminate the Doige loop down there. There, again, most of the ridership at any of the stops on that loop are so close to the main road. So they wouldn't have to walk very far at all to get to the bus still. And then same with the Marlesta loop up through there, is the most people by far get off right at Appian anyways. So yeah, suggesting getting off the, getting rid of those loops, adding stops on Appian, a northbound stop that would be right near the middle school and right near where there's a new 154 unit housing going in. This would make it more direct, again, faster, reliable, saves time. It's easier to understand. It would have a very low impact on ridership, very, very low, if any, in terms of negative impact. And, it retains access for most people at nearby stops. Okay. Now, the next one is streamlining the JPX and serving Richmond Parkway Transit Center all day. Thanks. So we're looking at the orangey yellow one. So currently the JPX deviates off the freeway to serve 5 stops on Fitzgerald Ave. And those 5 stops actually have an average of 3 total ons and offs per day. So that's 1.5 people maybe using that deviation for the whole day. And it serves the Richmond Parkway Transit Center only middays. And there is heavy ridership at the Richmond Parkway Transit Center for both the J and the 16. There's a lot of ons and offs for those routes. So what we're suggesting is maybe skip the Fitzgerald deviation go straight down the freeway to Richmond Parkway Transit Center and stop there all day to catch all those people needing to transfer. And then people wanting to go to Fitzgerald can transfer at the Richmond Parkway Transit Center or one of the other four spots where it hits the Route 16, and which comes very often, and go to Fitzgerald Ave. So there's not much people using the Fitzgerald stops on the JPX, but there is on the 16. And so I think it's a decent transfer to ask people to make. Again, it would improve the speed slightly by not deviating off the freeway. Increases the transfer opportunities. And we got a lot of rider feedback that was written in saying that Richmond Parkway Transit Center is a key hub for them. Okay. The next one is realigning Route 19 to improve coverage and connections. And so this is the last section. This is really about improving connections, but there's overlap. So Route 19, as I said, is a Saturday-only route currently. And its lowest ridership along the route is actually that dotted portion up top where it overlaps with the J on San Pablo Avenue. Very few pickups there, and it's served by J. The highest activity for Route 19 is actually at all of the intersections where there's shopping destinations, and then also Fitzgerald Ave. So what we're proposing is that we align Route 19 a little bit more with the weekday Route 16, because 16 was one that we heard a lot of riders say they wish there was weekend service. So we can do that halfway, covering more of the swath in between San Pablo Ave and I-80. We're also suggesting adding a Richmond Parkway Transit Center stop at both directions, and because currently it only goes to Hilltop, and then, rerouting, instead of going along San Pablo Ave, go along the freeway to Pinole Valley and then on Appian. This would have, why? Because there'd be a very minimal ridership impact from moving the route. 70% of Route 19 riders said they transfer to AC Transit. So we need to have this connect maybe with 2 points where AC Transit is. Half of Route 19 riders also said they use Route 16. And so this alignment is, consistency with 16 is beneficial. Route 19 riders also said that they favor coverage over frequency. So this is adding more coverage. And they preferred more local service over new regional service. This is doing that. Okay, that was all 9, 8. This is the budget. We're not going to go through it, but all you need to notice is that it's pretty much even between the additions and the reductions. There is a little bit of buffer to account for implementation and anything else that might come up. And so, in selecting these opportunities, we looked at the ones that were of the highest, most important, highest value, and then needed to find balance in there with some reductions. Okay. So all of those that I just went through, I'm going to recap them for you so that you can get a whole picture of this. So first, more frequent service where ridership is highest. Yes, I did say this is not only about ridership, but it is somewhat. It is still a little bit, so that's where it's covered. By adding frequency on the J and the JPX, we meet riders where demand is strongest, and we improve connections to BART. Second, expanded weekend service. Riders told us they need service for work, shopping, and other essential trips on Sundays. So adding that fills that gap. Third, faster and more reliable local routes. By streamlining unproductive deviations on routes 15 and 16, we shorten travel times and make service easier to understand and more reliable. And last, better regional and local connections that are for the JPX 16 and 19 all improve connections at the Richmond Parkway Transit Center and Hilltop Mall, which are two of your busiest stops. Real quick. So I'll have a closing, but so you know, up next, we're going to incorporate your feedback and into a draft service scenario, preferred. And then we're going to seek feedback from stakeholders and the public. As I said, the next board meeting, we're going to talk about dial-a-ride, microtransit, and school service. And then there will also be a marketing and communications plan to go over. So we've studied the data, listened to the community, and evaluated lots of options. This set of opportunities balances passenger priorities, operational realities, and the budget. So taken together, we believe that these are the fixed route service changes that best position Westcat to serve riders, not just today, but also into the future. Happy to take questions.
Thank you, Ms. Kraft. Directors, any questions? Director Sasai.
Thank you, Vice Chair, and thank you for the presentation. It's an exciting thing to be part of the process to reassess this. And so thank you for your work and all the community engagement, because I'm excited too that the community got to be part of about this data gathering process as well, and about all these different things we'll be considering today. So thank you for getting to this point. The first thing that comes to mind in looking at this presentation is the different optimization and streamlining that's happening. And those are very nice and flowery words, but really what it is also we're eliminating parts of routes that will take away service to some folks or make it harder to have access to service. And one thing, of course, as a panel representative, I want to outline here is parts of is it Deutsch and Wright Avenue, part of Route 16 that is proposed to be eliminated. So this is also where the quantitative data makes sense to take, right? Which is, how many did you say riders do we get in that part of the route daily in those stops?
I don't recall what it is for only that. I calculated or added it for total. I think it says in the report how many average daily riders there would
Gotcha.
have
And that's average daily riders for that portion of Route 16, or
just for those stops.
Okay.
We looked at data at the stop level quite a bit.
Gotcha. And you don't have that number on hand right now? I don't think I noted it down here.
What would be an acceptable amount?
Well, I don't think that's part of the question. I think the question is, how can those riders really have access to service, right? And how many folks are that? I mean, if it's 3 or 4, that's one thing, but if it's...
If I recall correctly, having read the report, it was under 5. It was about 1.3 or so.
Okay,
Yep.
great.
5 riders on that particular part of the route?
No, not even 5. Let's look at the report and see what we have there.
And I think as you're trying to find that too, the reason why I ask is because I know this portion of I think going up Seamus and then Deutsch and Wright Avenue, it's very uphill. So I think a lot of folks are going to have a tougher time walking down and uphill to get to bus services.
Mm-hmm. So yes, it is uphill. There is a total for the whole stretch that we're considering taking out of 1.5 activities per day on average.
Gotcha.
So that's not even 2 people. And as I said, we saw the most activity at I guess the stop would be short at the bottom of the hill. So it wouldn't even, be all of those 1.5
Gotcha.
people.
Thanks for finding that. I think that's where the data makes sense to pay attention to, right? And I know, unfortunately, we don't have any Hercules representation here at the board meeting tonight, but one optimization that I noted too was the elimination, was it of the JX service?
Yeah.
Gotcha, completely, which is, it serves the waterfront area of Hercules.
It's got one stop there.
It's got one stop there, and it's right by the vacant parcel. And then you noted a development that's planned. It's the SB 35 project that is going through. Gotcha.
Correct.
Gotcha. So, again, I wish we had Hercules representation here tonight, but I do see that as a problem. I mean, a lot of the housing that's there is very dense housing. And I think the one that's being proposed now, the SB 35 project, is also going to be very dense as well. And so I think my initial response is to not cut service to that area. And if we do, I think that's the other part of the presentation we'll be having when you come back again, which is microtransit, which is first mile, last mile. Like, how do we cover that, right?
Rob?
If I could, yeah, just a response to the Hercules. So with the development that's being proposed, that would eliminate our ability to make a stop in the waterfront area. We would not be able to turn around. I've talked about this with the city staff and with a couple of the council members. They are aware of that issue. Until the city develop the Hercules hub, we would not be able to actually take a vehicle into that area and safely turn it around in the area.
Wow,
So
okay.
this is sort of preempting that concern that is upcoming. But I mean, I think we're happy to have a larger conversation, and we're not asking for any final decisions today. There's still a process to be done. But I think your comments are noted. They are things that we do need to talk more about.
For sure. And was it because the developer had bought out the portion of the land where the bus stop was, or was it more of like an access issue for buses to get through that?
So it's not where the bus stop is. It's how we actually turn around because of the road system in that area. It's very difficult to get a 35-foot or 40-foot bus in and out. And so our only access is along John Muir Parkway. So we come in John Muir Parkway along Bayfront, and then we stop, and then we turn around, and it's actually in a service access road currently. So when the development goes, that service access road goes away, and so it eliminates our ability to actually turn the vehicle around.
Gotcha. And in your conversations with the Hercules representatives, what has been their feedback? Was it more of like, oh, we understand it's not even feasible to do, or has there been alternatives proposed?
I think I'd let them give you that feedback.
Okay.
I don't want to speak for them.
Oh, for sure. Sounds good. And then the other thing I wanted to note here too, and it was early on in the presentation, you mentioned that it was sort of like the different waves of riders that we get in the morning for commuters going to work and also coming back home. And I'm trying to find it here. It was, I believe it was from 6 to 9 a.m. and then 9 a.m. to noon. And then, right, and then for folks coming back, that's incorrect?
Yeah, it was for 5. You mean the gap when we'd have, the time when there would be frequent service?
Yes.
Oh, it's a 5-hour, and we've played around with a lot of them, but basically it's 10 hours. We can determine which 10 hours, but it covers a lot more of the midday. And that's also something that we saw like a huge amount in the passenger survey, is that people prefer all-day service, even if it comes less often than they do for frequent service during peaks.
Gotcha. But there's really a gap in terms of the kind of wave of riders between the hours of 12 p.m. and 3 p.m. Is that correct?
Sure. There would still be service, just not 20-minute service.
Gotcha. So there's already less frequent service during that time.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Just, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Right. We would simply because it wasn't affordable. If there was money, then I would suggest it goes all day at 20 minutes.
Right. Is there an ability to, instead of using our regular buses, to use paratransit as a means to, instead of having full-size buses serving the community at that time when there's not many riders? Would that be a possibility?
The real difficulty with that is the real cost of having vehicles on the street is the labour. It's not the actual size of the vehicle or anything like that. And operationally, it's very challenging to change vehicles out mid-shift or, doing that. So once a vehicle leaves the yard, it's much more efficient to have it complete its full active duty. And I say the cost of having transit on the street is a labour. It's not a vehicle.
Gotcha. So whether it's a full-size bus or it's the same exact labor cost involved? Yeah. Gotcha. All right. Thank you.
So if I could just go back, I do know that Director Bailey's not actually in the quorum, but I think he does want to make a comment around the waterfront area. So if that's okay, I will. allow him to make that comment.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you for the questions. Director Pars, pardon, you're pointing to something?
Yeah, so if we could let Director Bailey speak. Oh, that's the wrong one, sorry.
Was that call for Bailey?
Yes, sorry.
Okay, sorry about that. I can hear you guys. Hey, I want to thank for the report as well. I'm obviously working this evening, so I couldn't be physically present. Again, so I'm Director Bailey. I do represent Hercules. Today I'm calling in just as a resident, though, based on our rules. I did want to comment on the JX service. Just to remind everyone, the SB 35 project has not been approved. It is a pending project, but it has not been approved as far as I know. I think it was Director Sasai asked about the bus turnaround. They currently turn around using private property. I did read the report, and I think we have 13 passengers board on average per weekday, I think is what I read in the report.
Yeah.
And I do understand that number we'd love it to be higher. I am concerned about removing service. If that SB 35 product is approved, that's 100, I think, plus units. On Tuesday, the council approved another 170 something units downtown. So we do need some sort of service there. I know we're not voting on anything. I wouldn't be voting at all, but I know the board isn't voting on anything tonight on this. But just as something to keep in mind, if the limiting factor is specifically the turnaround, there is other property on that same street that would not be developed, and perhaps we should look at that in partnership with the city. If that is the factor, if we're just looking about operational needs, I'm enjoying hearing the conversation and we'll learn to love more about that. But again, I don't want to let an SB 35 product that has not yet been approved be the reason that we stop service to that downtown area. As Director Sasai stated, it is a very high density area, and the density, if it's finished to build out, will only get I think from some residents, they would use the word worse, but the density will increase if that product is built to completion. It's a lot of 3-story buildings with very limited parking. I think we have less than 1 parking spot per unit in that waterfront master plan because it relied on bus and transit. Thank you for allowing me to make the comment.
Can I respond?
Yeah.
Okay, so what we're suggesting is not for there to have JX service go away and never come back. Clearly, it's going to be a hub. It's going to be a big, transity area. It's just not right now. Right now, people are not using transit in this dense area yet. It does 3 stops. It goes BART, Hercules Transit Center, and then Waterfront. So that whole stretch between Hercules Transit Center and Waterfront is all to serve 12 total people boarding per day. So, and 10 offs, 10 people getting off on average. So it's just, I wouldn't want to take service away either, but when we're looking at trying to increase service that can help more people, this would be an option.
Okay,
And thank you for the comment back too. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the question. So other directors on the dais with questions. Director Henson.
Yeah, thank you for your report. It's very interesting. I think the other thing we'll look at is too is some of these areas that you're talking about removing, it takes away the argument, I see buses running around with nobody in them. And that's when we get a lot too, right? So in some of these neighborhoods, we actually had many, many years ago up in the Hercules area, people come down and try to shut down the route because it just ran around with nobody in it and made nothing but noise in their neighborhoods.
Oh.
So that's something else to think about is if the boardings are so small, are we really doing ourselves a disservice? Not only financially we can't afford to do it. I mean, if we even had the money, is it proper to run a bus where there's nobody getting on it? So it's something to consider that we're putting service where people is using it and making their lives better rather than having a bus run into a neighborhood that nobody's using it. So I think I really like what you've done with your report, and thanks for looking at it differently. So thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have any questions. I just have a comment. If the JX, claiming in JPX that portion down to the waterfront, there's other services that are not far away off of San Pablo Avenue. I don't know about the safety of a stop on San Pablo Avenue, but there is the opportunity potentially for a safer spot to be built close by, and so it wouldn't be that far, and it's kind of flat. So it's not like they would be losing completely out until the train station and or ferry is built and transit really becomes viable in the waterfront. So if there's this huge concern about the service down there, it's not going to be a huge impact to the people down there as a rider that would be taking that.
Well, thank you for your questions. I have a few comments and a couple of questions. Thank you for your report. You used the term in the report and then here verbally as well, deadhead.
Oh, sorry.
Can you please explain that?
Yeah,
When I
it's-
looked it up, it was a completely different definition.
I'm sorry, I missed
Yes.
that. I didn't put that in the planning terms slide. It's the time when a bus is running but is not actively picking up or dropping off or carrying passengers. It's called non-revenue.
Whether they're
Time.
paid or not paid fares.
Yeah, it doesn't have anything to do with that. It just basically means when the bus is not open to passengers.
Deadhead.
And that's usually, going to or from the yard, if it's not part of the route, or going to stop locations. Or changing from one route to the different route.
I think for the most part, it's when the bus leaves the yard before and it goes to its first stop, and then in the reverse when it ends at its last stop and comes back to the yard. We do have a few instances where we may deadhead between Hercules Transit Centre and the school, so we're not in service, but we're making it. We need a bus at Hercules Transit at the school to provide school service, so we move a vehicle. So that's the deadhead.
Thank you.
It's just a way of tracking the hours and the miles.
Thank you. There's mention of the waterfront, and certainly our Hercules representatives know that it refers to a certain area on the waterfront, but I think other persons think of the waterfront stretching over into Pinole. So in your report, unless some map says otherwise, can you specify that it's the waterfront in Hercules, actually?
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you for that. With regard to some of the changes, Route 16, I was wondering where on Appian there would be an added stop. I heard mention of a stop near the junior high as well as to the new development with the townhomes that are going to be built there. So that would be closer to I-80, definitely. But where would be the next stop south of that? At San Pablo? Would that be the next?
Well, so currently the stop would be San Pablo and Appian Way. So it's right on the corner there. But we have had a number of conversations over the years with city staff about the potential of a stop on Appian Way close to Marlester. There's some challenges for sight lines and for just the safety of the stop, but I think we've had some pretty productive conversation with the city over the years, so I think that's what we would look to kind of try and explore and establish stops at that location as well.
Yes, please, because that's a midpoint, but not only because it's midpoint. Again, we also have a grade there, and as a walker, it's not a challenge to me now, but I can imagine for some walkers it will be, and there are students that we know come down Appian between the junior high and San Pablo.
Yeah, so I think I completely agree. I think the real important stop is the junior high school and the new development that's happening. I think when the development was under discussion with the city, we worked a lot with the developer and with city staff, and one of our, not commitments, but one of our was we would look into restoring service along Appian Way to provide better service. So this kind of goes in along with those conversations that we've had with city staff.
Thank you. Thank you for exploring further if there can be an additional stop. That's what I'm taking away? Okay. Additional to the location that you've now identified at the junior high and because of the townhomes that are being built. Thank you. Similar question to the line, I think it was 19, that would not be, and correct me here, the line that would not be coming down south from San Pablo down Tennant to I-80, but would instead be running down San Pablo. There's mention in the report of additional bus stops. Where would those be located? And I'm specifically thinking, if it's not already there, there is also a development with lots of senior housing. There may already be a stop there, but please tell me if you
Will you
have
show
any
me
idea.
where, maybe on your slide or something? So There's not actually any stops being added that didn't exist before, and it's hard to tell from the map, but basically the route is just going a different direction up Panola Valley Road and then going down Appian, which it didn't before. So it's just seeing a different stretch of San Pablo Ave. Yeah, I know. I can show you on my screen.
Next time we have larger maps, perhaps we can take a look at what the proposed changes would be. Ultimately, after I finish reading the report, with the proposed changes, however they will turn out to be, key will be the education or re-education, education of new writers, re-education of existing writers with the shifts. It sounds easy and it reads easy on paper, hop off this bus, now the route changes and transfer. But it's going to take some behavior change that way. And so question then will be, and perhaps this would be at our next meeting, a reporting on the communication and education that will be related to making those changes.
Yeah, we're going to do a whole plan so that we make sure we're prepared. And there's lots of good examples and case studies from agencies that have done redesigns fully and everything that they did. And there's a lot of information out there to know. Like, for instance, one agency went out in their shuttle vehicles and to stops that were no longer in service, and sometimes, and told people that were standing there. Others, got them a taxi ride for free. It's going to take people and signage. But yes, looking forward to that part.
Good, thank you. Thank you. Okay, question about the development in Hercules that it would impede bus use has already been asked and answered. So I think we're going to hear more about that, given the discussions, exploration that will be done with the City of Hercules. Okay, thank you for that. And I appreciate that there's a big concept here that I often don't hear enough of, especially in these times when, I'm not going to say these are times of uncertainty, there's always uncertainty in public service, but to keep aligned with that uncertainty is the necessity to stay also cost neutral or budget neutral. So that notion of budget neutrality and trying to do with what we have is really important as best as we can do so. And again, with gradual education and information, always involving the public, particularly the users who have been accustomed to using the service and who rely on it. Mm-hmm. That's what we're talking about, not taking away among those who rely on it. And I echo a bit of what Director Henson had said, because we have heard that. I happen to live along Route 16 and often see a few people there. I also know that some of the new people who would want to purchase a home there, a dwelling there, something that the agents don't always mention, but is a reality, is the sound or the traffic noise. And even though the buses aren't that loud, it is another consideration for people who would purchase homes there. So minus that, there's always the pluses and minuses. That's one minus. Advantage or disadvantage for anyone who would buy a townhome in that area. I do wonder about the ease of use for future riders on Line 16 with that portion that runs through Ridgecrest being proposed to be removed, because the topography is different going south or going north. Again, with a couple of riders only, it's not going to affect that many people, but it will affect some. So with the consideration about a stop near somewhere on Appian, in addition to the one already thought about by the junior high, that's probably going to help with that. So thank you. Those were my comments. A couple questions I think I had in there. Thank you for the explanations. So now that we have a quorum, we're going to go back, unless there's anything more that you would like to offer us.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Chair,
Thank you very much.
sorry, I do note that Director Bailey has his hand up again, if you would allow him to.
Oh, Director Bailey has his hand up. Again, he has another question. Okay, let's hear it. Director Bailey.
I did, and I'm sorry to
sir.
ask it afterwards. I do understand the comment made by Director Hansen, and we have had those challenges, and I've also heard there's concerns. This is folks asking why we have buses driving around empty. My question is there a map that shows what the nearest service to the waterfront would be? Because I think I heard that we would be removing JX, My question is, how close to the waterfront will we get? Does that mean we would still get the service on John Muir, or would it be the service that's on San Pablo?
It would be 11, right?
Well, so, yes, I mean, to answer your question, yes, it would be the service on John Muir and the service on San Pablo. I mean,
Okay.
I will just say that one thing that we didn't discuss as part of this project, but we've worked with the city in the past, is the potential of the developments near Tashima playing a role in, if we went along Sycamore and came out of Tashima, there's a potential to get a little closer that way, but that's sort of dependent on some city development activities occurring in that area.
Yeah, okay. And I appreciate that. Again, I think I appreciate everyone putting the time in. I'm disappointed to read that it's 13 people hopping on, and I wish it were greater use, but I do understand the larger issue here. I just want to make sure that for those residents that need it, perhaps those that have things that make walking difficult, that we get something as close as possible to the project site. So again, thank you for letting me make the second question. And I'm sorry, I think I had myself on mute. I was just saying thank you guys for answering those two questions. My hope is that we can get the bus service as close as possible to the folks that need that service. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on Zoom that I don't want to ignore? Okay, thank you so much. All right, so we're going to go back to the top of the agenda now that we have a quorum, and thank you, Ms. Kraft, again for your report and answering our questions. So if we can let's see, we're going to go to, and we're going to take it all the way to B, on approval of the agenda. So may I, yes? Yes.
Make a motion to approve the agenda?
And may I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, all approved. The agenda is approved. Any public communications? None in the audience here in chambers, and any on Zoom?
None.
Okay. All right, now we go to item 1.0, the consent calendar. May I have a motion to, or do any directors want to discuss any of the items listed on consent calendar?
Actually, could I just make one correction? I think the minutes are listed as being for July 11th, and it should be for July 10th.
Okay.
So we've made that correction in the hard copy, but it's just noting for the record.
With that correction, so moved.
Do I hear a second? Motion.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Consent items approved. We have heard the presentation, item 2.1, and so now we go to committee reports. General Manager, your
Thank you.
report.
So I've got a couple of items tonight. I think the first one is just to thank the MV staff in the audience for showing up. I mean, there's a number of operations staff that have come on here. There's a couple on Zoom to kind of listen to this presentation. So I'll enjoy getting their feedback over the next few days from them. The related items, we've just completed our financial audit for the year. I want to thank our staff, Yvonne, Deborah and Christina, for all their hard work in the finance. And it's not finalised yet, but it is going to be a clean audit with no findings, so that's always good news. We have started the process with the Joint Legislative Audit Committee of the audit that we talked about at the previous meeting of the 6 East Bay transit agencies. So far, we've had a kick-off meeting, and we've started submitting a large number of documents to them to kind of show what we do in terms of coordination, how our agency exists. I can't share a lot of details. We're not allowed to share details of the audit at this point, but it is ongoing. It's expected to take between 8 and 9 months. So once we get some more feedback, we'll let you know on that. The regional measure that we've been talking about on the ballot measure, which needs the SB 63 to pass, which is Scott Wiener's and Jesse Aragon's bill that's going through the process right now. And I know it passed the Assembly Transportation Committee earlier this week. It needs a vote on the Assembly floor today. I believe it's going to happen today, and then on the Senate floor tomorrow. I think tomorrow at midnight is the deadline for this bill to be approved in the legislative. If it's approved, it will then move forward and be on the November 26th ballot. I think at the previous meeting we discussed that Westcat are now anticipated to receive a share of, they haven't finalised if it's going to be a percentage or a dollar value, but ourselves, County Connection, Tri-Delta and Labda and Union City would be eligible for around $21.5 million annually between the agencies. So it's split differently between Contra Costa and Alameda. Contra Costa, for the three agencies, ourselves, County Connection and Tri-Delta, there's $15.5 million anticipated to be available annually throughout the life of that measure. So having conversations with the other agencies, with CCTA staff, with MTC to kind of finalise all of that process. Hopefully it passes all of the legislative process by midnight tomorrow and we can move ahead with that. Want to share a little bit about the Links 20. I know a number of you got some of the merchandise that we've got. So September 19, 2005 was when the Links first operated service. Since then, we've operated, I should have looked this up, I've lost track. I did some calculations a couple of weeks ago. I think we've travelled something like 7.5 million miles. We've transferred around 3.5 to 4 million passengers. And we've had, I think it was 350,000 trips in and out of the city in that time. So we're having free rides, all of this, well, for 20 days this month to celebrate 20 years, which pretty much covers the whole month. There's a number of items that we're going to be giving away to riders. There's been a number of social media posts created around this. And just in, I mean, I know we are offering free rides, but yesterday, I know there was a Giants game on, saw easily our highest ridership since pre-pandemic. So we actually had higher ridership than we did on a number of days from February and March before the pandemic started of 2020. So that was really good to kind of see that we really are seeing an increase in ridership on the Transbay service. It's been growing over the last couple of months as more people come back to work. But, you know, we are, and we're monitoring this and we're trying to actively do this. You know, we have new vehicles out on the road. There's a couple of less seats on some of these vehicles. We're consistently seeing in the afternoon full vehicles, you know, 53, 57. I think we even filled one of the double deckers at 88 seats on one of the trips. So, you know, I think we're starting to look at what we do to potentially add service on the links because we you know, that's where we are right now. You know, there's been a number of trips where riders have chose to wait for their next vehicle rather than stand on the trip home. You know, that's kind of the level of capacity we are. So it's really good to see the links kind of really coming back because last couple of years, you know, after the pandemic, we weren't seeing return to ridership. You know, it wasn't doing really good. So it's really good to have those numbers kind of come back. And the final item I want to share is something that probably should have neglected to do. We should have done in July. Just want to recognise that this year is Yvonne Morrow's 25th year she's been with the agency. So just think it's wanted to acknowledge that because I think it's a really big milestone. Yvonne's been involved in a large number of projects over the year. I mean, she's kind of seen us through a lot of different things and she's taken on a lot of different roles. She's been, you know, really willing and able to step up and really help improve and keep Westcat going. So I wanted to recognise that. That was all I had for today.
Thank you for that report and congratulations on your 25th anniversary with Westcat. And thank you for your service and guiding us as well over time here on the dais. Next on the agenda, any communications from members of the board? And, Director Parsons?
Well, today is always an interesting day for me, 9/11, 2001, and trying to get out of San Francisco and that happening and Westcat staying open with the JX service, which was outside of their core hours. And I made that call and asked Charlie Anderson at the time, hey, can the buses continue to run because we're exiting here? And there was a day that, you know, well, a lot of us that were alive at that time, so I see a lot of younger people in the audience, that you'll never forget. And it was awesome that Westcat was able to provide that service and get us home. So, you know, Westcat is an amazing service for our area. And as we make these decisions and changes, just, you know, we'll be mindful of what hopefully services everyone, you know. So There you go.
Thank
So
you.
thank you for the years of amazing service. I still want us to do a hot dog or a hamburger or something, FYI, before the year is over.
Thank you for that. I just realized I jumped ahead, but no report from our WICTAC representative. That was item 3.2. Okay, so how about as a director, not WICTAC representative, but just as yourself here on the, nope, no report. Okay, Director Sasai, any communications?
Would this be appropriate time to request an adjournment in the memory of? Would it be item 6?
That would be item 6.
Okay.
Off a little bit. Thank you. Okay. Do we have any correspondence? No correspondence. Okay. So now we've got board communications, and if you would please, Director Sasai, what was your request?
Sure. Well, he was not a representative of Westcat, but he was my colleague on the West Contra Costa Transportation Commission. So recently, Christian Peoples had passed away. He was a representative long time of AC Transit. He got on in 1997, and sorry. Oh no. And he's a great leader in regional transportation, and he has been great at, I mean, just when I first got on my first year in WICTAC, getting me up to speed in terms of all the different acronyms, even stuff as simple as that, but really just, just talking me through some of these issues as I eventually became chair of that commission. And so, of course, that seat is now vacant. He also just leaves a really big gap in leadership that we have in the county and in the Bay Area. So I just want to request an adjournment in memory of Christian Peoples for today.
Okay, and I'm going to ask you to speak a little slower because I missed the name of that.
Christian Peoples.
Christian Peoples. Okay, thank you. Hold on for that. Any items for future board meetings? Requests from any of our directors? Nope. Okay, thank you. All right, so I will adjourn the meeting in honor of or remembrance of Christian Peoples. Everyone be well, and until we see each other again. Thank you.